We have a long lens shot on this now. The authorities have asked us to keep our distance for safety concerns and so that their air assets can get close enough to assess the situation, because that's what matters most, obviously. So it's hard to tell what's going on other than the obvious that you see, the fire. And from here, again, we're far away, but you don't see any movement around it. It is very difficult to see if there's any manpower on the ground there. And the presser is going to begin. Let's see what we can learn.
We're just about to do this. Here we go.
I'm Cindy Bachman, Public Information Officer with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. As you know, we still have an active scene here in the Angeles Oaks area. There's a subject barricaded in a cabin, and at this time, that cabin is on fire. As far as our deputy sheriffs that were injured during the firefight, one of our deputy sheriffs was pronounced dead when he arrived at the hospital, and the second deputy is in surgery now and is expected to survive.
Can you describe how this firefight happened?
I can. I know that the subject stole a vehicle from the Big Bear area. He fled on foot not far from this cabin that he's in now. When he barricaded himself in the cabin, there was gunfire exchanged between the deputies, who were the first responders, and the suspect. The suspect has been described as looking similar to Christopher Dorner, and we have reason to believe that it is him. That is unconfirmed at this time because we have not had any contact with him except for the deputies that were engaged in gunfire with him.
Cindy, how did this fire start?
About the fire. I can't talk to you about the fire. I just received information when I got here that the cabin was on fire.
Do you know he's still inside?
We don't know if he's inside. The cabin is on fire now. That's all I can tell you right now.
Are you planning on a long night, Cindy? We saw the lights coming in.
Of course, we are planning on a long night. It's an active crime scene. If this is Christopher Dorner here, he's now responsible for the murder of 4 people and attempt murder of 3 others.
Do you have it surrounded? Do you have the entire area surrounded?
The entire area is surrounded by law enforcement personnel. As you know, there's been law enforcement here in the mountain communities from across Southern California, including the FBI, the U.S. Marshals. We have plenty of air support, and we need to let them do their jobs and bring this incident to a safe ending.
And fire department is not invited in?
What kind of firepower? How much personnel is up there?
I don't know how much personnel
and
is
fire
there.
department is not allowed to tackle the fire yet because they're not sure it's clear?
Correct. If there is someone inside the house that is armed and that has already killed one of our deputy sheriffs, they're not going to allow anyone to go near the fire at this point.
The two individuals were held
inside the cabin.
I'm sorry?
Was there any communication at all of any type with?
I'm not aware of any communication with the subject inside.
The 2 individuals that were held.
Hostages in the cabin?
No, I'm not aware of any hostages in the cabin. I'm not aware of any hostage situation.
The 2 individuals that were held by him that ended up calling, were they harmed in any way? Who were they? How did they get out of this thing?
The victims of the car theft, I know the car was stolen from their home, but I don't know how the incident unfolded at their home. As far as I know, there were no injuries to those people, but after he fled the scene and then was engaged in a firefight with our deputies, what happened at the house wasn't that important after I knew that they were not injured.
That house for the past 2 days, as far as you know, we heard reports he may have been holding this couple hostage for the past
I have not heard that.
Do you know what kind of weapons you're up against?
No, I don't.
Do you know for sure if somebody is in that house?
Are you sure somebody is in that house?
Is in that house that's burning?
We believe that someone is in that house, yes.
Do you believe it is Christopher Dorner at this point? We
have reason to believe that it is him. The victims who had their car stolen reported to us that that suspect matched the description of Christopher Dorner.
As well as the game and fish wardens who came across him?
I don't know what the fish and game wardens said.
Can you confirm that there are no hostages, or you just don't have any information?
I have not been advised that there are any hostages involved in this current situation.
Well, just to clarify, what we're talking about is reports not this one where the fire is, but on Club View that he may have been holed up in a home or a cabin over there with a couple that was tied up. There are reports going around. We're just trying to clarify, is there any truth to any of that?
That hasn't been confirmed. Like I said, as things began to unfold, when I knew that the victims of the car theft were not hurt, I didn't ask any further about that.
Was it 3 or 4 deputies who were shot, including 2 deputies and the ranger, or were there more than that?
I'm only aware of our 2 deputy sheriffs that were shot.
Did you start with Fish and Game as originally reported?
I did hear reports that there were shots fired at a Fish and Game vehicle.
So did they then call the sheriff's department? How did
this situation was already going on at that point?
Cindy, do you know if the gas that was put into the house started the fire, or
I don't know.
Internally?
I don't know.
And how much force did they go in with? Was it just gas they went in with, or other devices?
I don't know. It's an active situation, and they're not concerned about updating me with that kind of detail at this point.
Any explosions and ammunition on the house? Bomb at some point, and did the
I don't know. I know that there was a smoke bomb, but I don't know if that was from the suspect or from
Do you know if there's any ammunition or explosions at the burning house?
We would assume that there is ammunition there.
Is time on your side, or at some point do they just go in?
That will be up to them to determine how they handle it.
Has the entire area been all the civilians in the area been moved out ahead of this, or are there people who are now in their homes in that immediate area with Christopher Dorner perhaps on the run in the Seven Oaks area?
I'm not aware that there are any neighbors who need to be evacuated. I think if there were, that was done early on.
But how confident are you that you have him? Are you going to wait until this thing completely burns to the ground before you move in?
They're evaluating it as the scene is. It's an active scene, and it's burning right now. And they have a plan. Clearly. And they have not had time to update me on every detail of that plan.
We have about 30 minutes.
Being fired out of the house before the fire started, or was it after the fire started?
There was active gunfire before the fire.
Do you know what type of weapon he had?
No, I don't.
So you don't know who started this fire? Law enforcement?
No, I don't.
There were shots coming from the cabin towards the deputies.
Correct.
Gunfire exchange.
There was an exchange of gunfire between the subject in the cabin and the law enforcement personnel that were surrounding the cabin.
And at the time, the cabin was completely surrounded by law enforcement when that exchange was going on?
Completely surrounded, I'm not sure. But there was law enforcement outside of the cabin when the exchange of gunfire occurred. We had air units up as this was going on.
So just to be clear, the deputies were shot while the suspect was in the cabin, not while he was running to the cabin, correct?
I don't know the exact sequence of events. I know there was an exchange of gunfire. 2 deputies were shot. One of those deputies died as a result. The second deputy is in surgery and is expected to survive.
Do you know if this man was hit, if Dorner was hit?
Did at some point Mr. Dorner abandon the stolen vehicle? Is that what you said?
He did. He abandoned the stolen vehicle and fled into the forest, and that's how he ended up in this cabin.
Do you know if gunfire had been exchanged before he abandoned the vehicle?
No, after he abandoned the vehicle.
You have about a half hour.
Has he been hit by any chance? Do you guys
I'm sorry?
Are you guys aware if he has been hit by any of
We're not aware.
You have about a half hour of sunlight left. How critical is it that you guys get him before that sun goes down, or end this thing?
Well, it's critical that we end this situation as soon as possible. He's an armed and dangerous subject. And
give us another summary, please, up-to-date summary.
Just at the beginning, summarize again.
every
Up-to-date summary.
Is there a police car missing? Is there a police car missing?
there are no police cars missing that I'm aware of.
Is there any attempt of communication with him?
I'm not sure.
Did it appear he had any body armor?
I don't know. They didn't indicate that he did.
Is there any speculation that the suspect probably fled the area before he caught the house on fire?
I don't know what kind of speculation is going on there at the scene. At about 12:20, deputies that were actively working the search for Christopher Dorner received a report on Clubview Drive from the report party said that their vehicle had been stolen from their home. They also reported that the subject who stole their vehicle matched the description of Christopher Dorner. Immediately, all available law enforcement on the mountain and other units from down the hill began to surround the area. Our areas were up. They located the vehicle. The suspect that was driving the vehicle abandoned the vehicle and fled on foot into the forest. He barricaded himself in a cabin. At that time, there was an exchange of gunfire between the law enforcement personnel outside of the cabin and the subject inside. During that gunfight, a deputy sheriff, two deputy sheriffs were shot. One of them died after being taken to Loma Linda. The second deputy is currently in surgery and is expected to survive.
Were these deputies on routine patrol, or were they part of this large assignment?
The deputies that were shot were a part of the search efforts to find Dorner. The second deputy's in surgery.
The house is burning quite significantly. It doesn't seem that anybody could survive in there. How soon before they go in and confirm whether he is in there or...
I don't know how soon that'll be. Probably when it's safe to do so.
Is it an abandoned cabin or it's actually an occupied one?
They believe, I think that it was a rental and that there was no one there.
But how sure can you be? How secure is the area around that house? How well were your helicopters watching the area while he was in there and this was playing out? How sure are you?
I can't answer that right now.
Was still in there.
And you can't say who started the blaze?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I found out just when I arrived that the cabin was on fire.
Just to confirm, there has been no further gunfire from the home since that fire broke out.
It's my understanding that since the fire began at the cabin, there has been no other gunfire.
And what can you tell the residents of Big Bear and the surrounding area at the moment as the sun is about to set? Is this guy still on the loose?
I can't answer that for you.
But it's a possibility.
What do you want me to do?
Get out of his way.
Cindy, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Cindy. I gotta get a card too.
The roads are going to stay closed. I would say for
okay,
at
this
least
press conference is
hours,
ending with San Bernardino local authorities, and the word is basically the most we know right now is what you see. For the last several hours, police have had a coordinated response between local, state, and federal authorities. They believe in the cabin that you see engulfed in flames was a suspect named Christopher Dorner. That has not been confirmed, even in the most recent press conference. They believe it because people who had a pickup truck stolen earlier in the day identified the man who was stealing the vehicle as who is believed to be Christopher Dorner. He was pursued into this cabin that is now on fire. There was a resulting gun battle between him and two deputy sheriffs from San Bernardino. One of them wound up losing his life. The other, we're told, is going to be okay. From that point on, all we know basically is what you see. CNN has been on the story from the beginning. We will continue our coverage. I'm going to hand it now to Anderson Cooper. Anderson?
Chris, thanks very much. A lot to talk about. Obviously, the story is what is happening right now in the woods in Big Bear. There you see the fire that has been raging now probably for at least half an hour or so. Joining me on the phone is Kyle Martin, who's the son of the woman who owns the cabin where this tactical operation is underway. Kyle, as you see these, I assume you're watching these images of this cabin up in flames. How big a cabin is this?
It's pretty big. It's actually more than one cabin. It's actually got 5 smaller cabins, and my mother rents them out.
I understand that you were watching TV, or your mother was watching TV, when she saw her cabin basically surrounded by authorities. What happened?
I wasn't with her. I was actually talking to my sister. She was with my mother, and she texted me, and she was like, oh, the cops had actually searched the cabins about 2 days ago, and then she texted me. She's like, oh, that looks like our road. Mom says it's our road, and then it ended up being our cabin. So.
Now, this cabin, I understand, did not have, according to your mother, from an earlier report, did not have phone, did not have television, did not have internet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Were there any?
It does. It wasn't hooked up. It has in the past, but yeah.
Ooh, does it have electricity?
Yeah.
Was there anybody in the cabin at the? Was it being rented?
No. No, there was no one. There shouldn't be anyone there.
And you said the cabin was searched about 2 days ago?
I think it was, yeah, about 2 days ago. I guess it wasn't, they just kind of looked around, though. It wasn't a real thorough search from what I hear. Obviously, I wasn't there.
When you see, I mean, I assume you've been to this cabin. I mean, when you see what's happening right now, what is going through your mind?
Yeah, well, I actually just got home. I've been hearing about it on the radio in the car, and then when I got home, we turned on the TV, and to actually see it burning is kind of like a shock. It's like, whoa. I mean, memories are burning right there.
Was there anything in the cabin that could have contributed to a fire, to your knowledge? Ammunition, firearms, propane, anything?
Oh, I know I was run by propane, but I believe the propane was off. No ammunition or firearms that I know of. It also has a basement, though, so